When you start imbibing the divine qualities mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, you will earn self-knowledge without much effort. A quote from Sadhguru Sri Nanagaru's speech. Abhayam implies fearlessness.
Swami Vivekananda said, "It is fear that begets disease, sorrow, and death. Therefore be fearless."
Shakespeare said, "Cowards die many times but the brave only once."
When Bhagavan Ramana was asked whether he was overpowered by fear at any point of time, he replied, "What on earth? There is nothing apart from me to cause fear."
Sattva samshuddhi implies purity of the mind.
Jesus said, "Blessed are pure at heart, for they shall see God."
Whatever be your religion, whomsoever God or Guru you adore, whether you are a man or a woman, whether it is in this world or the other worlds, whether it is in this birth or the next, liberation is possible only through the gate called purity of mind.
Bhagavan said, "Lakshmi, the cow, attained nirvana without my help. How did she attain the same without any spiritual practices?" Lakshmi had no conditions in loving Bhagavan. She had unconditional love. Out of love, she became 100% purified.
Jnana Yoga implies listening about the self and contemplating upon the same. Vyavastitaha means concentrating the senses and the mind upon the self.
As a matchstick can burn out the entire bundle of dried grass, even jnana can burn out our whole lot of karmas.
Once, Bhagavan was asked, "Why should we contemplate upon the self?" Then Bhagavan replied, "If you don't meditate upon the self, you will automatically meditate upon the sensual objects."
Dana implies charity.
Charity begets purity. If your charity is for fame, you can never prosper in your life, and it will only hinder your progress.
Jesus said, "Our charity should be so secretive that the left hand should be ignorant of the charity done by the right hand."
Bhagavan said, "How can you refrain from being charitable if you are aware that whatever you give comes back to you multiplied manifold?"
Swami Vivekananda said, "People don't dig a well where there is a necessity of water. Rather, they dig a well only at the shore of Ganges to attain fame."
Dhamma implies sense control.
If your senses are under control, you will not be disturbed even if the entire world rebels against you. The secrets of nature are revealed to them, whose senses are under their control. Moderation in food, holy company, and reading holy books help us control the senses.
Concerning food habits, Gandhiji can be considered a role model. For example, Gandhiji never peeped into others' plates. Instead, when his plate contained something he wouldn't eat, he would ask, "Where is my plate?"
Yagna implies selfless work.
Sri Krishna said, "One who works with expectation is equivalent to a bonded laborer."
Worship of gods alone doesn't constitute yagna. Giving food on time to bedridden people at home also comprises yagna. The longing to realize the self, which holy company attains, also accounts for yagna.
Sri Ramana said, "The result of our actions are not only transient but also hinder our progress."
Once Bhagavan was asked what selfless work is. He didn't reply but went up the hill and started making a stick out of bamboo, which took him nearly 4 to 5 hours of strenuous work. When a shepherd, who was passing by, saw Bhagavan and asked for that stick, Bhagavan gave it to him without a second thought.
Swadhyaya implies the study of scriptures.
We must read only books like the Ramayana, Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita, which introvert our minds. Else, we can also take the words of a jnani as the authority. Unless we read the scriptures, we don't know how to worship God or how to serve the society, which constitutes the family of God.
There is an ancient saying, "If you want the grace of goddess Lakshmi, that is the goddess of wealth and prosperity, read Ramayana. If you want your task to get accomplished, read Mahabharata. If you want dispassion, read Bhagavatam."
Sri Ramakrishna said, "I will not stop learning until my last breath."
Tapas implies penance.
The Bhagavad Gita mentions 3 types of tapas: body, speech, and mind-related. You have to be ruthless towards the body to conquer it. On the other hand, you have to regulate the speech and master it. You have to overpower the mind by controlling it.
When Ganapati Shastri asked about the essence of tapas, Sri Ramana replied, "Inquiring the source of the body-bound eye, where the mind gets submerged, constitutes tapas."
Arjavam implies treading the path of righteousness, pleasant behavior and absence of crookedness.
We must speak only that which is within our heart. We must act upon only that which we speak out. The thought, speech, and deed must be synchronized. This is called arjavam. Some people act as if they are rich to attain a rich life partner. But after marriage, they sell their properties. This is hypocrisy.
Sri Ramakrishna always described lust and wealth as the most significant obstacles to attaining God. When Sri Ramakrishna's brother wanted to sell an ancestral property, Sri Ramakrishna was called to the registrar's office to get his non-objection for sale. Realizing that property existed in his name, Sri Ramakrishna fainted.
Ahimsa implies non-injury in thought, word, and deed.
Buddha said, "When you cut down a sandalwood tree using an axe, it extends its sweet smell even to the axe. Similar is the case of a holy man. He only blesses, even those who harm him."
Unable to witness the animal sacrifice to be given in her marriage, Shabari ran away from home and reached the hermitage of Mathanga Maharishi, where she served him till the end.
Satyam implies truth.
There is no religion or caste greater than truth. There is no nation greater than truth. There is no knowledge or God greater than truth. God reveals himself only to him who loves the truth, who lives only for the sake of truth, who dies for the sake of truth, and who gives up his everything for the sake of truth.
Khudiram lost his entire property as he never yielded to tell a lie. As a result, the whole world considered him a fool. But pleased by his truthfulness, Lord Vishnu took birth as his son in the form of Sri Ramakrishna.
Akradaha implies devoid of anger even in adverse conditions.
Anger is another form of desire. An unfulfilled desire leads to anger. It is the smaller vessels that get heated very fast. Similarly, only the people with little minds get angry very soon. Anger hampers not only spiritual growth but also material prosperity. By habituating to silence and prayer, one can overcome anger. We thank those who point out a worm on our shirt. But we get angry with those who point out the faults in our minds.
Rama never got angry. He just enacted anger. However, there was one situation where Rama could not control his anger. When Hanuman became the chariot of Rama, he became the target of Ravana and was bleeding profusely. Then Rama became very angry.
Tyaga implies sacrifice of the bad company, bad habits and bad tendencies.
Sri Ramakrishna said, "A person cannot become a jnani without being a tyagi."
Buddha said, "When my body itself doesn't belong to me, whom else can I call my own?"
Non-identification with the non-self also constitutes tyaga.
Continuing good work despite being aware that the same will not be recognized also constitutes tyaga.
When Rama was asked why he practiced such an austere life when his mother Kaikeyi did not impose such strict restrictions on forest life, Rama replied, "When my brother Lakshmana cannot enjoy, how can I think of any pleasures?" Thus Ramayana is full of tyaga.
Shantihi implies peace being undisturbed in prosperity and adversity.
Sri Tyagaraja said, "Without tranquility of the mind, there is no comfort."
Sri Radhakrishnan said, "He is luckier who possesses a peaceful mind than the one who possesses the desired job or a favorable wife."
It is prescribed to chant the mantra, Om Shantihi, 3 times. First, to avoid the natural calamities. Second, to avoid the disturbance within your house. Third, to avoid the disturbance within your mind.
When Dasharatha called Sri Rama and informed him about his coronation as the king, Rama was not delighted and went back to his palace calmly. However, very shortly, when Rama was called back and informed about his exile into forests for 14 years, he was not perturbed.
Apeshunam implies not finding fault with others.
Reformation is better than criticism. Construction is better than destruction. We cannot reform the world without reforming ourselves.
Sri Sharada Devi said, "To find fault with others is one's own fault."
Sai Baba said, "If you find fault with others, it is equivalent to eating their filth."
Yogi Vemana said, "People who find fault with others don't realize their own faults."
When a devotee complained to Bhagavan about the faulty affairs in the ashram, Bhagavan said, "Have you come to Ramanashram to reform it? Didn't you find any faults at the place where you hail from?"
When a devotee complained to Bhagavan that another devotee was more interested in the quality of sambar rice rather than his real purpose in the ashram, Bhagavan replied, "He is indeed treading his real purpose in the ashram. Now you tread your real purpose."
Daya Bhutashu implies compassion towards the poor and downtrodden.
Sri Malayala Swami said, "Compassionate hearts are the residence of God."
Swami Vivekananda said, "Him I call a Mahatma, whose heart bleeds for others."
Only he who suffered from starvation can understand the pangs of hunger. You cannot understand the same by mere book reading. When you are suffering from indigestion, how can you perceive the pain of hunger?
When there was a famine in Calcutta, Swami Vivekananda was ready to sell off the Ramakrishna math to serve the poor. The inner intention is more important than the external activity. Therefore Swamiji is called the friend of the poor.
Alolatvam implies being unperturbed even when objects of sensual pleasures are accessible.
Kalidasa said, "Avoiding sensual pleasures doesn't constitute self-control. True self-control lies in not being tempted when the object of temptation is in front of you."
The sense control of Sri Krishna Chaitanya was such that even when someone put sugar on his tongue, not a particle of sugar got wet due to saliva. So we could take back the sugar.
Without possessing a flawless character, we cannot overcome the craving for sensual pleasures. Therefore, only that which begets a flawless character can be called true education.
Mardavam implies softness.
Socrates said, "Goodness itself is self-knowledge. The brightness of gold is enhanced when heated in flames. So likewise, the goodness of a man increases when he possesses softness."
Softness is not a symbol of cowardice but is a symbol of bravery.
A rigid person can only understand the height of life and not its depth.
Lord Rama was Mitha Bashi, Hitha Bashi, and Purva Bashi. Mitha Bashi implies Lord Rama spoke moderately. Hitha Bashi means Lord Rama spoke that which is beneficial for others. Purva Bashi implies Lord Rama spoke to others even before they would speak to him. Rihi implies being ashamed of performing forbidden acts.
Though the forbidden acts may taste sweet initially, they only beget sorrow. Therefore, it is the divine law that every pleasure we take from external persons or situations gets converted into pain later.
In the Ramayana, when Ravana forced Sita to marry him, Sita replied, "When I am already the wife of one, how can I become the wife of another?"
Achapalam implies non-wavering of mind and senses.
Once, Bhagavan was asked, "When we are neither this body nor this mind, why can't we experience the self as our true nature?" Bhagavan replied, "It is due to the long-standing habits and the wavering mind."
Once, A devotee asked Bhagavan how to control the mind. Bhagavan replied, "Your mind cannot stop wandering, whereas my mind cannot refrain from being still."
Sin and ego are the two causes of the mind's wavering. Only a pure mind remains still. Practicing yoga and treading the path of righteousness reduces the mind wavering.
Te Jaha implies subtle intellect and skill.
He is wise who learns from the mistakes of others. That is, he who has subtle intellect understands the cause of others' hardships and doesn't commit the same mistake.
In the coming generations, people can survive without money but not without intelligence. Therefore, it is not enough to provide your children with money alone. You must also enhance their intelligence.
Hanuman's mother, Anjana Devi, advised him, "Don't meddle in the fight between your uncles, Vali and Sugriva, because Vali has anger and Sugriva has lust."
When Rama killed Vali, Vali's wife, Tara abused them with uncontrollable tears. Rama kept quiet. But Hanuman showed his wisdom here. He said, Vali was not righteous. Hence Rama killed him. If you want, Angada can be made the king. On listening to these words, Tara's grief came down. Then Hanuman said, as Angada is still young, he can be made the prince and Sugriva coronated as the king. Tara agreed to this.
Kasham aha implies forgiveness and tolerance even in an unfavorable situation.
When Sri Sharada Devi was asked to give her last 3 instructions, she replied, "Tolerance, tolerance, tolerance."
When Socrates' wife first scolded him and later poured a pot of water over him, Socrates said, "First came the lightning and then the thunder."
Tolerance enhances your heart's depths, habituates surrender, and prevents new tendencies. As water flows towards the slope, truth reveals itself only to the tolerant.
Dhruti implies courage.
Bhishmacharya said in the Mahabharata, "Courage is the medicine for all the diseases in the world."
When Mira was offered poison, she courageously accepted it, considering it to be an offering of Lord Krishna. However, the poison did not affect her, but it was Lord Krishna's throat that turned blue.
Adi Shankara said, if we can enjoy destiny courageously, peacefully, tolerantly, and willingly, we will not get the same destiny in the forthcoming births. Therefore enjoy the destiny as you enjoy eating the pudding.
Shacham implies cleanliness of body and mind. Both the body and mind need to be kept clean. The body needs to be cleansed by a bath and the mind through prayer, japa, and meditation.
When a notorious rowdy cheater expired in Tiruvannamalai, everyone talked ill of him. However, Bhagavan, who never spoke ill of anyone, said, "The rowdy cheater took a bath thrice a day."
Once Adi Shankara was returning from the Ganges after taking a bath. He then came across a Chandala. Shankara, to retain his shuchi, asked the Chandala to step aside. The Chandala replied, "Which part of me do you ask to step aside, the body or the consciousness?" Shankara then understood the true essence of shuchi.
Adrohaha implies not retaliating despite having the capacity to do the same.
We must not make them our enemies, who hurt us through words or deeds. If we possess such enmity, we always think of them and stop thinking of God.
There is an instance where a defendant financed the complainant when they ran short of money in the process of fighting a suit in a court of law.
When the thieves attacked Ramanashram and beat Bhagavan, one of the devotees wanted to retaliate. Then Bhagavan said, "If your tongue is bitten by your teeth, will you get your teeth extracted?"
Natimanatha implies non-craving for honor and fame.
Milton said, "Lust and anger subside as our age advances, but the craving for fame doesn't decline even on the approach of death."
Bhagavan said that there is a chance that a person addicted to prostitution may get reformed, but a person craving for fame cannot get reformed.
The people in power desire their name to spread in all directions. The air spreads in all directions. Do they want their name to get merged into the air? What is the utility of this fame? It can only increase the number of people who would accompany us till the graveyard, upon our death, but not beyond.
Einstein wanted his death to be declared to the world only after being burned. He did not wish to reveal the world, the place where he would be burned.
It is enough even if one divine quality is put into practice. Other divine attributes will automatically adorn you. A quote from Sadhguru Sri Nanagaru's speech.